This episode was very rough to watch, man. I'm not gonna lie. The title of this episode was called Fluctuations, and that episode title accurately describes the fluctuation in the animation quality during this episode. Please hear me out when I say this. I am not blaming the animators for how this episode turned out. I am, however, going to talk about the bad scheduling and how that's impacting the season overall. After the masterpiece of an episode we got last week with Yuji vs Choso, I expected the animation to dip a little bit, but what we got in this week's episode just didn't look right. I just want to say that this episode was in by no means a terrible episode. The JJK team did what they could with the schedule they were given, but with that being said, the episode was incredibly frustrating to watch. The episode started off really good with Mei Mei's fight against the smallpox curse. The animation and the artwork from Takuya Ninuma was freaking gorgeous. Like, the animation was so smooth and clean, and I know for a fact that all of us probably thought that the entire episode was gonna look like this, but nah, it didn't. But it's when we get to the whole Dagon fight where things started to tumble animation wise. And listen guys, I'm gonna keep it a stack here. The Dagon fight wasn't really one of my favorite fights in Shibuya as opposed to the others, and I know that some JJK fans might think that this deserves to be a high priority episode while others do not, but all I can say is that if this was your favorite fight in Shibuya, you guys got done dirty. I feel your pain. When Nanami, Naobuto were fighting Dagon in the station, that entire sequence was just okay, you know. I did like how there was a gradual build up of things going from bad to worse with Dagon's evolution and the back and forth he had with Naobuto and how they were kind of teasing his technique. I think all of that was pretty cool. The direction of that scene was good as well, even though the art direction looked a bit stiff and slow at times, and the still frames looked a bit weird, especially with this shot of Nanami. Man looks like he's got cauliflower ear or something. After last week's episode and seeing the masterful job they did with Choso's blood manipulation, I couldn't wait to see what they were gonna do with projection sorcery. Guys, this was not it, bruh. This was not it. Projection sorcery was so underwhelming to see animated. Like, I could tell that if the animators had more time on their hands, they would have been able to properly animate his technique, because when you look back at the series here, whenever a new technique has been introduced, the team has never cut corners with the animation, whether it's Gojo's domain, Mahito's, Nanami's technique, or just Black Flash, right? And it was just so sad to see what they did to projection sorcery. Naobuto was moving mostly off screen and appearing behind Dagon. It was disappointing, I can't lie. Like, was it terrible? No. Was it a letdown for some people? Yes. And listen, you may have liked what they did with his technique. I'm speaking for myself. It just didn't hit. I really hope that this technique can be done justice when season 3 comes out. The narration and the OST were really good. It was just unfortunate with the bad scheduling. Dagon's domain was too oversaturated with colors, and in fact, the backgrounds look like something you would get from My Hero Academia. I actually prefer the artwork they used for his domain in the first season compared to this. Like, it was too colorful. It even got to a point I had to turn down my brightness while I was watching. That's how jarring it was. There were too many awkward, slow shots. There were too many cuts, and Dagon didn't feel threatening at all while they were in his domain. And honestly guys, the animation in certain scenes almost looked like something from Seven Deadly Sins or some shit. If someone did the fan animation, it would probably look better than this. Guys, it honestly crushes me while watching this episode, because all I could keep thinking was, what if the animators had more time? Only if they had more time. I had so much pity while watching this episode, not just for we the fan base, but also for the animators. Mappa Studio have so many talented people working for them, but they care more about profit than people. Not only are they being overworked, but they have to create something that they know doesn't have 100% of their effort in it because of the terrible schedule. We know that the JJK team are capable of producing great work in a short time frame. That's not what is most important. The most important thing is the consistency. The first season has one thing that this season doesn't, and that is consistency. If the Mappa CEO really wanted this season to be greater than the first, do what you did in the first season and give these animators a break. The production issues are so horrific here. Like, the episode director had a mental breakdown on Twitter, blaming himself for how the episode turned out. Bro, all I can say is prayers up for these animators, seriously. At the rate this season is going, guys, the majority of the staff are definitely going to walk away once this season is over, and my prediction is the next season won't happen for like 3 to 4 years, maybe. The studio is shitting on all of us with how they're treating their animators, and it's a shame because in this episode I could see the glimpses of greatness, you know, but the passion is just being squashed by the Mappa higher ups. None of us would have ever thought that the Shibuya incident arc would look like this. This episode was just fine. Let's be honest, guys, fine isn't good enough for Shibuya. All of us know this. If this season was animated on the level of season 1, this would have easily cleared, but it doesn't. The Gojo past arc clears. The Maki versus Miwa fight was better than this episode. When you compare the Mei scene and the rest of the episode, it felt like I was watching 2 different anime. There desperately needs to be a delay for the anime because I'm extremely worried about how the rest of the episodes are going to turn out. I'm worried about Toji versus Dagon and how that's going to look like. My expectations for episode 16 were originally very high, but with the production issues throughout this season and what I saw in this episode, I don't even think that Hakuyu Go will be able to save that episode when it comes out, but we just have to wait and see. We only have 9 episodes left for this season and there are still so many big moments we have yet to see. And when I think about it now, yeah, guys, I am absolutely terrified with what episode 17 is gonna look like, because that is also a very big episode. I just don't know, man. I just don't know. I've seen a few people mention how they were gonna drop the anime because of this episode, and guys, cut the bullshit. You're not gonna do anything because it's JJK. This is basically a vicious cycle we're in, because the Mappa executives know that JJK is a popular series that people will keep watching, so they mentally, emotionally and physically drain their workers to produce content for us, the audience, to enjoy. And what makes this worse is that a majority of JJK fans would never criticize the series. There's a few people who have spoken out about the production issues, and big up to those guys and girls who've done so, but the overwhelming majority, they just won't. And this also affects the animators, because to them it's a privilege to be working on something as popular as JJK, and when the studio fucks them over, they end up gaslighting themselves into thinking it's their fault, and it's honestly disgusting. I really believe that there are some people on YouTube and Twitter who just willfully neglect pointing out the obvious because they don't want to be criticized. The honest truth is, if you can't handle criticism, you're not real, because the more people stay silent and the more people just praise Mappa for a mediocre episode, the more these animators are going to keep on getting fucked over. I know that I'll probably get a few comments telling me that I'm complaining and I should just appreciate this episode, but why would I lie to my viewers and tell them that this episode was great when it wasn't? Like, what type of critic would I be if I did that shit? I'm grateful that the JJK team has been able to deliver this season to us, but I need to say what needs to be said, and that's all, guys. Let me know your thoughts about the episode down in the comments. I'm interested to see how you guys felt about this week's episode. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and until next week, stay blessed.